Today's topic is the intelligent way to cut costs during hard times. So I am joined by Seth, Corey, and Andy from 08, all who are experts at being able to speak to this, all with different perspectives. A little bit of background as to why we chose this topic. So whenever a recession or any kind of economic downturn occurs, companies become more cautious with their money. Many times they think that they should cut marketing expenses. But what the statistics show and what many business owners don't realize is that continuing to invest in marketing and advertising during a recession actually tends to benefit your business. And with that, I'll say many people might think that maybe we have an ulterior motive to saying this because we're a digital marketing agency, but I will say we are just coming at this from the perspective that we want businesses to survive and thrive and act strategically during this time. And we actually believe in it so much so that we're even offering some marketing services for free to businesses that qualify. So all of these insights that you're about to hear are genuine and data-backed, which is how we do things here at 08. So with that, Seth, I know you communicate with a lot of business owners. You have a lot of friends that are small business owners. How would you respond if one of them said to you, you know, my business is struggling financially, I need to cut costs, so I'm going to cut my ad spend or my marketing budget?
Right. So yeah, you know, if you're not going to change at all, if you're not going to change your messaging, your strategy, your value propositions, then cut it, right? But you know, obviously those who succeed historically and presently are those who can be quick, nimble, agile, and adapt their messaging, adapt their strategy, try, you know, little growth experiments. Everything's changing so quickly that we don't necessarily know what works. So, you know, if you're able to get the data to prove that your growth experiment worked, for example, that would be a key that you should invest in this. You know, you shouldn't stop now. The billboards are going to be less effective. The trade shows are going to be less effective. The you know, everything in person is becoming less effective. So by cutting your digital marketing, that's a really risky thing. And the studies show that historically, during a period of recession, those companies who cut are not as likely to succeed by a large factor.
Well, and I would add that in a recession or an economic downturn or an unusual market situation such as we're experiencing now, that visibility is more important than ever. And it's also, to your point, Seth, I mean, it's an opportunity to take a hard look at what you have been doing and kind of what's the accepted conventional wisdom, and oh, well, such and such always works. We always go to this trade show, or we always do this event, or we always have this particular ad campaign running. And some of these things don't get taken out and re-examined. And so at a time when you're looking at expenses and looking at cutting costs, rather than just simply running right to what personnel can we potentially downsize, is looking at marketing strategies and tactics and saying, are we still, given the volatile nature of digital marketing and how it's a constantly moving target, and there's new technologies coming online all the time and new ways that people interact with digital properties, is it time for a rethink? Is it time to jump in and do some testing? And that testing can be done at relatively low cost. So even if you're trying to conserve funds, you don't necessarily have to go big. You can go small and targeted and figure out what you could be doing that maybe you didn't have the bandwidth to pay attention to before. We've seen that with some of our clients. One in particular I can think of who's doing a lot now, really diving headfirst into understanding digital advertising and search marketing, whereas before he simply didn't have the bandwidth to pay attention to it. And now he's looking to see how that works. In his case, he's in a very industrial B2B type of segment. It's not something that he thinks immediately lends itself, but he is seeing how what is going to be successful in that environment, and he has the time and bandwidth to do it, and because he's not doing the business as usual things.
Absolutely. And you know, right now the time to ask for help, to seek new perspectives, new ideas. You know, we see folks out there all the time that just their marketing is not ideal. And of course, everyone thinks their marketing is ideal, but it could always be better. And it's possible that it might have been awful and you just didn't know. And now, now is a great time to reinvent, to rethink, to just reach out and open up your mind a little bit to new ideas, new ways of doing things, new ways of conveying value, all these things.
Yeah, and speaking of, getting other people's opinions and other people's insights, and that's always really great because you're so involved in your own marketing. Maybe you don't have the perception that your audience has. And Corey, you created or were part of the creation of kind of coming up with a solution to that and getting together marketers here in the Twin Cities and nationwide to kind of give them a safe place to bounce ideas off of each other. How is that going? Are you finding that people are kind of asking all the same questions or kind of all in the same boat, or is, what's happening in that group?
Yeah, well, it's going great. I mean, we created it out of the need just to like get people together and just a way for us to really like support our industry and support the people that we work with and just have like a sounding board for these professionals to network and talk about the challenges that they're all facing right now. Because most of us are in marketing are facing challenges. It's a whole new world. So, and with the, with physical events gone, we're more than capable of creating our own platforms to get these folks together. So yeah, at this point in April, we've done it twice. We've got a US group that we got together, smaller group, but individuals from all over the country that I know from past conferences and from my career. We got together earlier in the month, and then just about a week ago, we got together with a Twin Cities specific group where we had at one point 19 people on the call. And with both groups, the topic was the similar. It's like, let's just talk about the challenges we're facing right now, and what are the new strategies that we're putting in place to deal with these. And it's been great, and we're planning on doing another series here in May, where we'll get the same people together. Everyone's starting to get to know each other, which is awesome. And the topic there will be like, well, what now? What are the lessons we've learned in the last month? Maybe we could take the discussion to where, what does the future of marketing look like? We'll see. All I can say is like, it's been awesome. There's no, it's not a webinar. There's no presentations. It's conversations with people, and it's been phenomenal. So looking forward to more of those.
Great. So clearly people are seeking out advice and some actionable steps. And you mentioned strategy, and you also said, we're in a whole new world. And that's true. We've never been in a situation like we are in today. What are some new strategies that people can be implementing? What are some actionable steps? If I'm a business owner and I come to you and I say, hey, I gotta cut costs, but I'm willing to hear you out, and I'm willing to listen to you because you're the expert. Tell me where I should be allocating my ad spend, and how do I figure out what's working and what's not working? How do I pivot?
Is that to me?
To anybody. Probably Seth.
Okay, yeah. So, it's all a cost benefit prioritization exercise. Some of these businesses are getting assistance from the government. So, if you have a 2%, 3% interest rate, whatever it is, if you can do the math and figure out the ROI and have proof that your ROI is actually working, then you could turn that into something profitable, that cash cushion you have there. But of course, it all depends on the individual business. And Andy, what would you add to that?
Yeah, well, I would say that kind of the foundational piece of it, and we're amazed often how many businesses don't have this in place, is to really look at your digital footprint and tie it back to KPIs. Like, what are we really looking for people to do? What are the precursors to revenue, and how do we build that chain out? And so to some degree, it means assessing how your website is operating, what conversions you have in place, how do people go from unknown to known. What sorts of content do you have? What sorts of assets? How often are you publishing all of that? What is the current go-to-market strategy, and what is it, not only what is it based on, but how well is it actually working? What I've sometimes seen, I guess I frequently see it, is that companies sometimes will give digital marketing short shrift because they've always done things a certain way. They'll say, oh, well, you know, really the website doesn't really do very much as far as conversions. Our salespeople are the ones that really know all of the, they know the market, and they're having lunches and coffees and so forth, and taking clients out, golfing and drinks and so forth. And that's all true. And that's gone away for right now, but it's not going to go away for forever. But in the meantime, it gives us an opportunity to assess where does the digital, where does the web and other digital properties, paid, earned, owned, fit into that value chain. And you know, if somebody can essentially be brought in via either organic or paid social, or through search marketing, or through display ad, or based on some sort of targeting or retargeting people who have visited the site. There's all sorts of ways to figure out how to get in front of the right people. And if you can bring somebody in who was previously unknown, and then they can be brought through that sales process and converted, Seth, to your point, I mean, having that ROI is something that everybody gives lip service to, but very, very few companies that I've seen really follow that value chain all the way to the end, even to the point where they can reliably say, this is our return on ad spend, our ROAS, let alone a complete ROI, which would take into account all of the investment that it took in order to get that sale versus the lifetime value of that customer. So a lot of it is really getting that foundation piece figured out, and you don't have to eat the entire elephant at once, but unless you're thinking about how are you really going to measure outcomes, then you don't really know what's working. So that's kind of job one, is to kind of figure out what do you really want to measure, what conversions are important. And then tactically, there's a number of things that you can do. I think one of the channels that's low-hanging fruit is search marketing, but it's kind of its own topic in itself.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like KPI development is something everyone should be doing. You know, we really believe in that here at OA. That's one of the first steps we take with our clients. You know, setting up their KPIs tied back to their business goals and then measuring them. So I think that's awesome. And you mentioned setting a foundation. So I was listening to Neil Patel speaking the other day, and he was talking about how, you know, in this day and age, in this new world, you really do have to be everywhere all the time. And that can cost as simple as like $5 to $10 a day. Just boost a post, get out there, get your name recognized to the point where people can't avoid you, and bring value in everything that you're pushing their way, so that they just come to know you as a trusted source. And then when they do need something, they think of coming to you. So I agree. It doesn't really necessarily cost a lot of money to do that. Maybe just like a lot of thought into the content you're pushing out there and tying it back to the right things. What do you think about that, Seth? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, you know, I've heard a lot of, you know, go big on brand right now. It's what folks are doing across the board that are, you know, agile and quick to pivot. Your customers may not be buying right now, or maybe they are, whatever the case may be. We're all really now focused, but you have to start pushing yourself to think 3, 5, 10, 12 months from now, even longer. And, you know, they're all kind of historical analogies of companies that have taken advantage of being out there during a recession. You know, like, I forget if it's McDonald's or Taco Bell, but one of them just went in and totally nailed it, and they didn't get a lot of return immediately, but, you know, gradually over time. And then when the recession was done, who's ahead? You know, one of them is obviously ahead. So you just have to think strategically, and not negate the importance of awareness building, right? Think about what that means for you.
I was looking at some of that history too. Like, I mean, it's obvious that people that are doing marketing right now, we need to pivot to digital, but there's some people that are just cutting marketing, and there's all this historical evidence, like Seth was saying, of how, you know, if if you pull back on your marketing during this time, your competitors are they're gonna go over you. Like, and it goes back all the way to the Depression. I mean, that was where like cereals were competing with each other, and like the Post brand pulled back. Kellogg's put everything into their advertising, and they grew their profits by like 30%. And then, yeah, I mean, and then in the 2009 recession, Amazon was a leader because they kept innovating, they kept marketing, but yeah, there's just a ton of evidence there that shows that the value of marketing during this time. So don't pull back. Like, this is the time to do it. So
yeah. Effective marketing really does take a lot of time and repetition. You think about it for your value proposition to really stick with your audience. So cutting your marketing now could essentially destroy all the groundwork that you've already laid. So if you've been invested in this for years and starting to get your message out there, and maybe you've hit your potential customers 3 times and then you stop, all of that just went away. You've destroyed that groundwork, and you're going to be starting from ground zero, when you're able to pick up spend again. So you kind of have to stay in top of mind for them somehow, but you can do that efficiently. So, we were talking about cutting costs and reducing profits, while, Seth, to your point, being able to boost your brand. So what are some good organic ways for people to do that, that might not necessarily cost a lot of money?
Yeah, of course, there's paid social, so Facebook, Instagram. You can run some really low-cost targeted ads. We're doing, and maybe you can talk about that, Hadley, just a little Instagram competition just to raise awareness, tag your friends. There are lots of creative little things you can do. But also, it's not that expensive to pick up the phone and contact someone else who has a different perspective. I think what we're gonna see here is people who are cutting marketing are cutting it because it hasn't been working well for them in the past, and they think, marketing doesn't work. Well, it's very possible that if you got a fresh perspective, someone could see something in your marketing that could totally night and day change how things are going for you. Even things as simple as 10 words on your homepage that has killed entire multi-million-dollar startups just because the messaging and the value proposition was off. Or maybe there's an emerging value proposition that you didn't even think of because of the way the world has changed that could just boost you along the way that you're not even thinking about. So now's not the time to stop thinking. When I hear I'm going to cut marketing, I hear I'm going to stop thinking. For the majority of brands, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think that now is the time, maybe especially since people aren't having all these face-to-face interactions, where they can really invest some time into looking into their value props, looking into their marketing. Where do they need to pivot? Do they need to kind of reapproach the way they've been thinking about things? And you can get input from calling fellow marketers, joining groups like what you've put together, Corey. And there's also a lot of AI tools out there that can give you some really, really great insights, and it just removes the biases that humans have and can really tell you, like, whether you like it or not, this is the cold hard facts, and people aren't clicking on this, so something's wrong with it, and people are scrolling past this, so it's not resonating with them. What are some of those tools that you can use for that, that you would recommend for people to kind of implement into gaining some good insights?
Yeah, so Drift has been a great tool for us. It's not necessarily AI, but it's a chat bot. Chatbots are just surging right now. People want to have actual conversations, and that may or may not be due to the current events, but right now, people are longing for social connection, and when they get to a forum, it's like, really? Especially when a competitor has that option to engage someone. So we're seeing a lot of surge in that. There's lots of, there's a plethora of tools. Andy, Corey, anything that?
Well, you mentioned, one of the tools that is AI driven that we've had gotten some value out of. It's not completely free, but it's fairly low cost, and it's called FunGui, spelled like feng shui, but with GUI is the in the name. And it essentially, it's like an on-the-cheap user test. So what it allows you to do is to go into a site and analyze eye gaze patterns. And the way it does that is it applies heuristics. It has a pretty significant database of eye tracking data. And then it's able to compare the site that you throw at it with that data, and then it will give you the gaze plot, and it will give you where attention is going, and you can see whether or not people are likely looking where you would expect them to be looking. And this is the same kind of information that you would get if you actually did run a legitimate eye gaze tracking study. But that would be time consuming potentially to set up, and it may not be something that companies are used to doing. This is again, it's AI based, so it's pattern matching and using neural networks and other types of AI techniques to get at a rough approximation of that same result. And they claim to be about 90% accurate. They explain the methodology on the site. So that's one that we look at that is in fact AI based. Other tools that use data to give you knowledge. I mean, one that's free from Google is Google Optimize for setting up A/B tests and setting up site personalizations. And you know, again, shifting gears, thinking a little bit about doing things differently is a good time to think that if you've got a sufficient amount of traffic coming to your pages, this is a good time to start testing messages and testing creative and doing A/B and multivariate testing. And the tool is free. It's just an investment of time, and the knowledge that you gain from it can be very, very valuable. And honestly, if you're not testing constantly, then you're missing out. So I think that's another thing that people can be doing differently, maybe if they do not have a testing mindset, is to start to adopt that testing CRO, conversion rate optimization mindset.
Yeah, basically, you know, a tool only goes so far, right? There are tons of tools, and we gave you a few examples, but if you don't apply them, you know, correctly, or you test like A/B testing, if you test the wrong things, just like button colors or little changes to text, you know, it's going to waste your time essentially. So yes, there are a lot of tools, but a tool is only as good as the crafts person using it. So yeah, there's maybe some DIY marketing opportunities if you try to cut your marketing staff, but you know, be careful of thinking that you alone as the business owner or whoever is making this decision to cut marketing, be careful in thinking you can just go out and get some tools and do marketing. You know, it's not that simple, unfortunately.
Absolutely, I'd agree with that. And Corey, you look like you had something you wanted to add.
Oh yeah, I got a new tool that I'm using. It's just kidding. No, I was just going back to Seth was talking about Drift earlier, and yeah, we've been super impressed with that tool. And the component that I use most with it is their video capabilities. And as you guys know, I've tested different video capabilities, but I'm using the Drift one right now, and it's super cool. And what I realized the other day is I think the days of like leaving someone a voicemail is in the past. I doubt if I'll ever leave anyone a phone voicemail again, because there's no reason you should do that, because you can reach people just like this, face to face now, digitally, through email, through LinkedIn. It's just, yeah, it's been a big discovery. So I just wanted to mention that.
And Seth, I think you made a really good point by saying that don't think that you can just go become a marketer. You know, I think everyone is a marketer to an extent, but a lot of this is highly technical, and a lot of this you really do have to be able to look at the data and make data-backed, data-informed decisions. That's how you effectively cut costs. That's how you effectively make money, because you can almost never really save your way into profitability, right? So you have to figure out where you're allocating your dollars. So if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to invest more time into this, but I just don't have the bandwidth. Is this smart decision then to outsource that work, or what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, well, you have to be really careful about outsourcing too, because the skill sets are just all over the map. There's a certain level of context with the English language and all these things you need to know about wording and messaging and conversions. And so yeah, that's tricky. You definitely, if you want to, explore bringing on capacity without hiring someone, there are folks, there are agencies like us that can embed in your team. But even before you get to that point, you just talk to us. Like we're not out there to just just get you into some big project or some big package. Just having a conversation. You've got some free people to talk to here. We're literally on Facebook Live right now, for example. So just talk to us, and that's half the battle, I think. We're here during this time to help each other out, and but in turn, you need to be willing to say, man, maybe I could use some help. That's other step, the other half of the equation that people need to be willing to take.
Yeah.
One thing I learned, I mean, digital marketing it's a very technical practice these days. And I just recently in our office, we shared all the different roles within a digital marketing team. And I think there was like 18 different titles that are part of the team, which totally blew my mind. So I think that right there says something.
Yeah, part of and that's an ideal team. Most teams are not at that level, right? An ideal team, you've got a marketing manager, well, a CMO above that, and then a CTO managing the technical side of things. You got front end, back end developer, designer, and then CRM specialists, CRO, paid advertising specialist, SEO specialist. All these components. Many modern day marketers are forced into wearing so many hats, but it's just not realistic for one person to really specialize in all of those things. And that specialization, could be as simple as, man, there's no CRO specialization. No one on the team truly understands how messaging and UX and some of these, copywriting, persuasion tactics, how that can totally make or break an entire business. So you're missing out on, oh, just a CRO specialist. Well, this person could literally save your entire business. You've got maybe 5 other roles, but so it just speaks to the complexity of it and the need to just seek an opinion, additional help, assistance, ideas. I'm happy to look at your website and your marketing and say, yeah, you probably need a CRO specialist. Everything else is in check. Or, man, you really should look at a designer. Or do you have a CRM? Or what CRM are you using? Is anyone actually using it? There are just so many pieces to the puzzle. And, the time now is to bolster those pieces as best you can and be nimble and agile about what pieces you put together and invest in. And maybe you are investing a ton of money in some pieces that don't matter. That's another thing too. Maybe you are actually wasting money on your ads. Maybe there's extremely inefficient landing pages, or the scent of the ads does not match the landing page, or the offer does not match the intent of the user coming to the landing page or the ad, whatever it is. There are just so many pieces. So I guess what I'm asking people to do is to not jump the gun on marketing right now, to just seek some different opinions, third party, whoever it is, your friend who's a marketing expert. Just be careful about cutting marketing right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. It sounds like everyone just needs to spend this time in this new world doing some research, talking to people. You can try out those tools, but again, be cautious. You can't, to state what was stated earlier, you can't necessarily save your way into profitability. You gotta keep rolling. Just be careful where you're allocating those dollars and make sure you're getting a good return on ad spend, watch your ROI, all that good stuff. So like Seth said, we're here to be a resource. There's a lot of other great people out there that can be resources. I think people are really rallying around helping each other right now. we want to keep the businesses up and going. We want to keep the economy up and going, and we're all here for each other.